Hold on for me, please. Okay, I have my extension. Interesting. Except that is not what I want to extend. Okay, that's the textbook I use for some of the examples. Okay, now can you all see my screen?
Yes, you can see.
Okay. Alright, good.
David, are you back?
You said? Okay. Now, yesterday we talked about locators such as ID. We talked about CSS selector, right? Expert name, link test, class name, and so on. So we are able to locate elements on a certain source demo URL. And also yesterday I talked about structuring uh, of your test framework. All right. So we tried to make the open browser code we wrote in our first class, we made it a base class. All right. So we said the base class consists of the setting and configuration for your classes. It serves as a base for all your classes. So what we have right now in our base class is just the browser property and then the navigation to the URL, right? That's what we have in our base. Also, we went ahead to create page objects um, classes. All right, so what page object does is inside your page object you have all your classes, different classes. All right, serving as a page. All right, so what that means is you can modularize. All right, you can make your object interact with other objects easily. All right, so this is where the concept of OOP come into play. And we also said how you for you to be able to master how you will create your page object classes, you can decide to pick each page of a website and make it a page class, or you can decide to make it each functionality. So the function of a user sign up can be different from the function of the user login, and it can be different from the contact page. You can decide to make all of these different classes. All right, then for the test cases are usually separate too. All right, just like the page object. So you create tests inside your test case or your test package. All right, so here yesterday we just created the file. We've not started anything on the test part, and we are not going to start yet. All right, until we get together everything we need to be able to run a test. Now, today we are going to continue with the user login class. Okay, so what we want to do is to log in this user with the username and the password. We have been able to interact with the elements and identify them. So the next thing is to write methods, action point, right? We mentioned it the last time that your methods are like your action points. All right, so you write methods for all of the different objects that you have already declared here. remember, these your elements here are just like your declared variables or objects. In this case, we have the web driver or the web elements object. All right, so here we are going to write methods for all of these web elements. All right, so the first one is that swag. Let's go back to the URL. So the first one we see here is the swag lab on this page. So come here and write we can say public. So what do we want to do? We want to be sure that user can see the swag lab. So with that we can say, okay, get text, right? So there are different methods. As time goes on, you will get to understand these different Selenium methods, right? So public void or public string, right? Public string, let me see, get swag labs, get swag labs. Okay, so I say public string get swag lab. So what do I want to do? I want to, where is the swag lab? I think it's here. Okay, so I will pick this. This is my web element, and I will say this dot what's that dot dot get. Can you see the different methods that I can call on this web element? So I can call send key, I can call get text. I'm not sending key. Okay, I just want you to look through. So I can call send key, get text, click, clear is displayed, find elements, find accessible name, get area, so many. The most popular ones are send keys, get text, click is displayed, get location, get size is enabled, is selected, submit. Those are the most popular ones, right? So here I will just say get text. All right, but I have to put a return since it is not void. So I'll say return swag lab css dot what get text. So this will help to display the words. This will help to get the text that is being seen by this element. I picked this element dot login logo by CSS. So if when it gets to CSS, this particular element, if when it gets to this element, all right, it should read the text out. Okay, so the text it will read out is what? Swag labs that we see here. Okay, so it will see this when it gets to all right. So when it gets here, that is when it gets to see this, it will read it out that okay, swag labs is here. However, let's continue. There's something I wanted to say, but it will make me jumping the gun, which I've been getting reviews. Some of you are not really understanding it yet, so I don't want to be jumping. So we'll just take it one after the other, right? Okay, so let's go to write another method. Now this time around we can write a method for username. All right, we say public, you can say public void get username. So public void get username. So you for this, it's like user will have to input username, meaning that I have to put in something here. I will say string what takes in string, I can call it string uname. So you now call this uname on the web element. What is the web element username here? We have name, we have id, we have, so we can go with id. We can say username. Okay, we can say username input. Okay, so we can say username input dot send keys. All right, so dot send keys, what keys is it sending? You call it uname. So that is how you write that method there. All right, that is what for username. You can also write one method for password. All right, so you come here. I will teach you. There's also another way you can combine both username and password. So we have public void get password. Okay, so we get password. We take in string password. Then what is the web element? You come here, web element password. All right, web element password. User will input. That's what send key does. It's just like input in Cypress or in some other automation framework. So this one we say send keys. It means that user is going to send in an input. All right. So this is going to be p word. Then that's for username and password. All right. So there's another way you can write this username password method such that you combine it. You can say public void get maybe get credentials or something, or get user login. Give it a name. So I'm just giving the method a name in case you are wondering where we're getting that from. Okay, so I want to get the user login straight off instead of saying, oh, this is for username, this method is for username, oh, this method is for password. I can decide to put both together. All right, so here I can say string username, string password. Then I'll come here and say which of the username now. I can say username input dot, by the way, the username input is a web element here. All right, so let me assume I use what's the name? I think this is carrying the same. I should have made it. Okay, so let me use something else. Maybe a tag name. So I can use this and say, sorry, this dot. So this dot send keys. Okay. So what key am I sending? Username. Then I can do instead of ID for password now, I can decide to use okay, we used only okay, we did only ID for password, right? Oh, I thought we did more than ID. Okay. So I will do this dot send keys, and that will be password. Okay. So password, that's to be exactly the same. Okay, so we have, so you can either use this method combining the username and the password, or you separate it and use, I like separating it because sometimes your login might be different. Different logins are designed differently, so it's better to just separate them. But of course you can also like combine it together like this. All right, so what next? I've been able to write a method for this. Now normally, usually after creating your page object like this, the next thing for you to do is to come to your login text, right? If the next thing for you to do is to come to your login text and then start writing the test. All right, that's what I'm supposed to do now, but I'm not going to do that next. So but I will go straight to POM. On the first day of this class, I mentioned what page object model is. So when you create a Maven project, which we did, we discovered that this pom.xml came with it by default. All right, so we then installed org.selenium. We installed Selenium Java to it, but that is not enough in building our framework. All right, for us to be able to run a successful test, and for us to be able to build a successful test framework, we need to come back here. All right, that's why we are not jumping to test case yet. So you come back here and come and check. All right, so the only thing we have here is Selenium. All right, but that's not the only thing we need. All right, so we need to also install a logger. So what a logger will do is, for example, when I say get text, I want it to be able to say, okay, this is the text that it has gotten. So it will not return it to, for example, it will not return it to the browser. Where it will return it to is your log, is your console here. All right, so it is your console here. So just like the way you write system.out.println and then you print to the console, right? So in building test framework, it's also good to use what? Logger. So there is something called logger. There is reporter. Reporter is going to ensure that you have the numbers of tests that pass, the ones that fail, and a summary of it. That's the reporter. Then you have the logger. Then we also have the model we are using. So there are different kind of model. I'm going to just go straight to Google. Okay, building test framework. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something else. Okay, I think this will suit what I'm trying to explain. All right, so because what we are trying to do here is a test-driven development. It's a kind of test-driven development kind of practice. All right, so look at my screen here. We have test-driven as an agile practice. BDD is also an agile practice anyway. But the difference between TDD and BDD is that in your TDD, right, you get to focus on your test cases. All right, you get to focus on your test, and the result of your test is based solely on what? Your test cases. All right, so it is purely driven by what? By test. But For BDD is purely driven by what? Use cases, by behavior of the application. That's the difference. And not that alone. In TDD, you get to drive it with more of data, although some people have separated that into test driven development. So we have data driven development. So we have test driven development, we have behavior driven development, then you have data driven development. Anyway, so you can have data driven development under TDD, meaning that you get to feed your test with a lot of data. What I mean by data is test data. All right. So imagine that when we were logging in here, you have a lot of data to feed this login part, and you have access levels whereby some kind of users will not be able to access some things, and then some kind of users will be able to access some things, and somehow you just have a lot of data just for login, right? In that scenario, the way you are going to build your application is going to be different. You have to consider which model or framework you want to use, right? So that is where all of this test-driven development thing comes into play, behavior-driven development, data-driven development, and so on. There's so many of it, right? It's like an architectural style of building the framework. So when you consider this, then it will also help us to know which kind of libraries and tools we are to import to our pom.xml, right? So we're talking about pom.xml, and we said that we have to consider which tools to use. So in considering TDD, you have to look at tools like TestNG, JUnit, and so on. So today we will be installing, okay, so that's not what documentation. Okay, as you can see here, test engine is a testing framework for Java programming languages created by blah blah blah. Okay, so we are going to be importing TestNG, which is our testing framework, all right, that will help us to organize our tests. So usually TestNG has a lot of methods in it. It will help us to know which functions or which methods to run first, and then which one should run the next, and then which one should run after, or that is how TestNG works. So we'll talk about TestNG, we'll install it. Then we're going to install, I talked about a logger the other time, so we use log4j. Alright, so log4j is also a Java based login utility, alright, and is usually used to log information, alright, and it will help you monitor your test execution. So it will show where errors are coming from or the passes that are made inside of your console, right? So we'll be using that. There's another one we will use, but we have not gotten to that part, which is like your reporter. So for now, we just need to install log4j. So I will go to, where should I go to? Maven. Where was that URL we went to the other day? Let me go to Maven repository. Okay, you recall that we went to Maven repository the other day, and let me see if I will find log4j here. Apache log4j. Yeah, so there is the API, there's the, so by the way, there's also Selenium Java API. All right, so all of these things has the different functions they do. So I think I will just, let me do Apache, this one straight off. Click on it, then click on usages. When last? Okay, apparently this is like the latest. It's more usages. Okay. So look at it. We have log4j. So you can just copy it from here. What's wrong with my mouse? Copy. So it's a dependency. So there you go. All right. So if you refresh your Maven here, it will install it straight off. Okay, I think it has installed it like that. Then I will install testng also. So I'll come here. Okay. Okay. So here we have test ng. And copy that. You can also install JUnit. JUnit is the default test framework with Java. Although we might not use it, but you can still have it in your home. What's this? Okay, so it's going to be to install. It's red because it's not yet installed. All right, let me see if I can find test JUnit. Okay, there we have JUnit. So you copy. Okay, so this one is done with installing. All right, good. Okay, and what did I think I want to install? Okay, there is one for page factory. I'm not sure. A minute. Okay. JUnit log4j. I've done log4j, right? What is this? Payment TDD. Which one is payment TDD? Okay, that's the name I called this, right? Okay. I think that is all for now. Okay, yeah. Selenium, Java, API. Let's do that. Where is it again? Okay. Maybe it's not this. There was one API I want to install. Okay. 4.2.1. Okay, I think that's about that. Yeah. So we have something here.
Sorry,
Test.
can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Please, when you have your pub.xml in all lined, all those funny, as if there's an error. What does that mean? Is it that something is wrong with it?
And that means that that particular thing you are installing, that particular dependency you are installing, is not yet
Yes.
installed, or maybe there is a conflict of version.
Okay.
So you might need to read the error. See, this is Maven here, so you load the changes here, or you can come here and then click down to see what is going on with it. So once you
Okay.
refresh, it will install.
Okay.
But if it doesn't install after you refreshed and waited for a while, because once it is installing, there will be something down, like on this line where you see build dependencies, blah blah blah. There will be something here that shows the progress of the installation. So if you're
Okay.
not seeing the progress of the installation and it is still red, it means that you might have to change the version number. So you pick another version and put it there, and then
Okay.
it will install. Sometimes some of these dependencies um, are decrypted. What is that name they call it? So
Okay.
yeah. Um, I'm looking for something. There's also a dependency I'm supposed to install, but boy, what's the usefulness of this? Boy. Okay, let me check. So if you go back and read up on all of this test framework, um, what's this? Virtue boy command. Okay, for accessing files. Okay, we don't need that yet. We don't need that. I think what we need now is what we have. Okay, so I think that is that for now. So we'll go back to writing our test. All right. Um, so what's it then? So we'll go back to writing our test. We were supposed to write a user login test. Alright, so the same way a normal Java class will look like. Alright, you create a class and you put the name of the test there. And then, but of course, you know that This particular test is relying on your page object, and it's also relying on your base class. On the base class. So because you know it is relying on the base class and on your page object, then you will have to extend properties from them. Alright. So here I say public class user text extend base class. Then you write a method. Alright, but before you write your method, some of the things that TestNG will do for us is to be able to organize your text. I'm going to go to the browser now, and we're going to see TestNG documentation. I'm looking for documentation. Okay, but we can't go through all the methods, so you will go to on your own at home for practice. You go to TestNG, check through the documentation, right, and see if you can familiarize yourself with the methods. Alright, so we have at test. I'm not even sure I'm going to go through all of this, but so our test indicates that you have some tests that you want to run. Let me look for something better I can use to explain. Okay. I hope these people will. That's why the problem I have with some of these documents. Okay, so okay. I have what I'm looking for here. And so we call them annotations. In Java, for you to know the annotations, you have to start with at. Alright. So we have at before suit, and after suit, before test, after test, before class, after class, before method, after method, before groups, after groups. Alright. Now let's see at where is that test? Okay, at test. I can see at test here. Hierarchy. So what before suit does is it checks for configurations before it even consider your test at all. Now your before test says configurations probably in your base class, and before class is saying configurations or your settings before the page object class. And your before methods talk about before the test method that you want to run, and the test is saying at the particular test method that you want to run, and after method is saying immediately after the test method that you have run. After class is saying after the class of the test in your page class, and after test is saying after the entire test and page class, and after suit is saying after the entire test. So this is like the hierarchy, and when you use them, you just put them right before the method. Like in this case, I want to write a method for this test, so I'm going to say add test. Alright, what's this bringing up? Add test, remove. Okay, I'm not removing it yet, so I will say public public void user login user login. Okay, you know the reason it was showing red, it was because there was no method yet. Like I said, our test we say is going to pick the exact method of test you want to run. So this is test. So, all right, now how do I write my test? Like we said earlier, we have user login, which we have written some methods for and which we have some web elements for. So, for user login, I will consider username input, username and password. And what are the methods for them? Get username, get password, right? If I want to display the text, oh, I can't do this today yet. This has to be when we start with the logger. So, but we will get there. So we want to input, we want the user to be able to input the username and it for it to display on that screen. Then we want him to input what password. And we've not, have we inspected the login button? No, we've not. Okay, but we'll stop at the user inputting the username and the password, and if we have more time we'll log in. Okay, so say what is the name of the variable class? We say user login equals to new user login driver. Okay, this is the driver, the web driver driving this instantiation. You remember your instantiation. Okay, so I've instantiated my user login driver. Now the next thing for me to do is to make use of this object here and say user login dot. What are the methods inside user login? We have get user login, we have get password. So if I say get user login, then I have what? String uname. So I will say dot get user login. So user login is supposed to take in what? Username and password. Okay, so I think I will use one method. I can't use the two methods together. So because of that, I'm going to comment this out and use only this one. Alright, so we come here. Now you see, let me go back. So we'll say dot get username. Okay, so it is just one that I will enter now. So what is the username I will get? What is our username that we will use? We will use this username, right? So let's use this username here and say standard user. Okay, now sometimes when you're running Selenium, it runs very fast, and if care is not taken, it will fail your test. So at some point you have to make it sleep. So there is a method called thread.sleep. Alright, so what that does is it will, when it gets to the element, alright, it will wait for a while. Alright, you have to, it's like a wait, implicit wait, explicit wait. Please read up on it. Yeah, read up on it. It's going to take more time talking about that. So there's implicit wait, explicit wait. So you want that element to wait for a while and then put in whatever value you want it to put in, and then maybe wait again before it now maybe proceed to the next element. Because if you don't do that, if you don't make it wait, it will just run everything fast and say there is an error somewhere. Alright, so usually, so what I want to do now is I will make it wait for a while. As soon as you get to that page, I will make it wait thread.sleep, make it wait for 1000 milliseconds, which is like 1 second. How many seconds is that? Okay, so 1000 milliseconds. However, I have to make it an exception. Okay, so once you introduce your sleep, you have to put an interrupted exception there. That's not an issue. It's just some of the methods of interrupted exception. If you come here, can you see what is highlighted here? We have public class interrupted exception, extend exception. So thrown when a thread is waiting, sleeping, or otherwise occupied, and the thread is interrupted. Thread is like process. So in case you're wondering what thread is. Okay, so when thread is interrupted either before or during an activity. Occasionally, a method may wish to test whether the current thread has been interrupted, or if so, to immediately throw an exception. So what we are saying is we don't want to move straight to the next line. We want it to be interrupted by a few milliseconds before jumping to the next element. So what we do is to introduce interrupted exception, and with interrupted exception comes sleep, comes wait, comes interrupt, and so on, right? So I've put here thread to sleep. So also I can also put it after here. We talk more about implicit or explicit wait when we complete a whole application. That means after you're done with your project on the final day of this training. So we have so I've asked the user to do what? To input this standard user as username. So what is next thing I will do? I will also do the password. I will say user login the password. So what is that method for password? I think it is get password. If you come here, you see that the password is get password, and it is you have to input a password into it. So here I will put in the password. Come here and say what is the password. I think I have a password here. So I have a password here, and then I will wait again. I want you to wait. Alright. Okay, so what this test will do is to input what? Username, input password, and that is all. Right? So we are saying run this method as a test. So we said the other time that test-ng has what? Before method, before class, before test, before suit. So the most popular ones, you have these three at least. I know of this. So we have before method, at test, after method. We also have before test and after test. All right. So let's see. Let's go back to our page object class. So we have made use of get password, right? Am I right? Oh, there's another thing I'm supposed to explain before we move on. Okay, so we have made use of this. See, when I clicked on it, it took me to this test, meaning that I've been able to pass in my password, all right, to this method. Then if I go back and I click on this, it will also take me back. All right, look at it there. Then I go back. So the ones that you see no usages, I've not used them. They are still like they are just there, right? So I made use of this, and that is all. Okay, have I used this? Okay, I think I used this for a method, Abby. I'm not going to run this, not yet. Okay, no usages, so there's no problem. All right. So there's something I was supposed to talk about. Um, there is a method. Hold on. Okay. There's a method. Maybe I will come back to it. So I'm going to run this one now. So I'm going to run this now. So what do we have? So you come to your test now and you just say run user login. All right. So what do we have here? It failed, right? So you have to be able to read your error. Compound. No, that's not it. One line. One line. Okay, I have it here. So I have it here. I have line 17. Okay, and I have line 13. 13. What is it in 13? Okay, so line 17. I'm going to comment this out. Okay. Okay, line 13 is what? Okay, so line 13 is just saying that from the start of the text. This is where the error starts from the start of the text. We'll run this again and see what error we have again. Line 53. Same line 53. Okay. Okay, so maybe I should introduce weights, web element weights. Okay. Okay. So let's just to confirm something.
But
Okay.
sorry, is this error able to tell us what exactly the problem?
Yes, it does. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so with time you'll be able to understand what each error is saying. There's something I want to introduce there, but I just need to confirm it. Okay. Web. Okay. Let's see everything we've imported to our page object class. So we have, here's our imports. Import the web driver. Import what of, okay, so I will do something. I will just say import org dot this dot this dot star says all. That's what star means. All. Everything from Selenium library. Okay, then what other thing should I import? I'll also say import org Okay. But that is not all. There is okay. Hold on. So one of the issues can also be the way you have set up your framework. So if it's not properly set up, or if you have not imported what you're supposed to import, you will have issues when you run your code. So it's not enough to actually write a correct code. Okay. Okay. So another thing we can do, I want to write a method in my base class that will say that when you get to that element, wait for about 20 seconds before you maybe before you click on it, or before you send your keys to it, and so on. However, let's go back to the error we are getting. So we have user login line 53. Yeah, line 53. What's on line 53? Then we also have line 15. Line 15. Okay, so that method in this place, the method we didn't use this at all. Okay, so we have on 54 get username, right? Let's run this again, see what comes up. Line 55 says what? User link into Java could be null, and user login text 15. Okay, what could be the issue? Okay, let's change this and see. Okay, what am I having here? New chat sequence. No, that's not what I'm doing. Okay, so I can say instead of sorry. Let's leave it like that. String username. Then I can say user period. Interesting. Although I don't think that is what will resolve this, but let me see if this will work. Let's run it. If you can move past line 57. Okay, still on line 55. Okay. Give me 2 minutes. Let me see what I can do with this error. Okay, I'm having a no. Okay. Null pointer. Okay. So what is the what did we use? Okay, hopefully I'm recording the right screen. Okay, so I made an adjustment to the base test, the user login, and the test itself. Starting from the base test, the base class. All right. So this is what we have here. I have my base class, and I created a method for it inside the class instead of just putting it in the main method. All right. Okay, I could call this one also like setup. So this is my setup, having the system property as you know it, right? And it seems that the way I initialized my driver was having issues. That was why I was getting the null pointer error. So it was not hitting this page at all. Okay, so the other one is the what's the name? The object class. The other one is the object class user login. So I have my constructor is correct, which is okay. But the element here, I have what the I don't need this one. The one I need is the username, right? The password, right? So I have the username and the password. So the modification that you can see here is what private login this, although that is not what affected it, like I said. What affected this was the way um I I initialized my driver, right? That was what caused the null pointer error. Null pointer error that we've been getting. Okay, so that is that about elements. Then coming to methods, it's still the same method. We have the username, we have the password. We also have, we don't need to log in yet, but we can also log in if we want. We don't need to do this yet. Or we can also do it if we want. So what we are doing is to input, to insert or the username and to insert the password, and that is it. Okay, the username and the password. You can also come in. We keep working on this. Hopefully I will create a video after now to finish the all of this, and also like I will send it with this other video. All right, so this is it. Now what for the login, for the user login test, for the user login test, there was something I did not do, although I don't like putting it here, so eventually I will still remove it. But because for the sake of that we want to move forward with this class, I had to put it in here. So look at what I've imported here. I have my test ng annotations before class and annotation tests for test and before class. Then I have my page object user login, which was there before, and I also have my base class, which was also there before. And then I have my class, which extend my base class, and then I have this before class saying that it has to consider what my setup. So this was where the issue was from. The way I initialized my web browser was the issue. All right. Then this is the test. This test has not changed. I have what public void user login throws interrupt reception, and user login. I put a timer. Username a timer. Okay, this let me put this timer here. Okay. Then password. After password, a timer. Wait for a while. Then I'm not going to ask you to click yet. So let's just see if those ones will work before we do the login. Okay. So we do this. Okay. So I also brought my URL to this part. I don't like putting URL here. It's not a good programming practice. So normally the URL was inside our base class, right? So normally this is the URL, but of course no usages. That is why it is not using the URL here, but it is using the URL that is in here. So I will do a short video to do a proper setup, and do a normal practice. Normally normal practice, you shouldn't include your base URL in your test. It's not okay. Okay, so but we need to move forward. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run this test. All right. And then if you look at the flow of this test, you discover that I asked this test to go to this URL first. Then I asked it to consider my class object, that is the user login. So inside the user login, it will read all the elements, blah 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 blah. It will read everything. Then it will now come here. When the time it gets here, it will now say okay, enter username. Then it will type in this. Then enter password. It will type in this, and that's all it will do. So that is the flow of this test. So I will come here. So all of these things you see here are steps. So when you write your test case and you write the scenario, this is the scenario login for example, and this is like your test steps, right? So I'll come here and run. We'll do more of this scenario test step thing next week. Okay. So this is all it is doing. Is just we just type in standard user, it will type in password, and then you are logged in. So let's see if we can log in. I think we still have 4 more minutes. We have already inspected login, if I'm correct. Let's see. the login button, inspect, we see class, type, ID, name. So we have login dash button.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we have copied the URL in that imputed it to navigate to the URL.
Yes. So what happened?
It's not extending to that base class anymore.
It's still extending there.
Okay.
So it is not just the URL that's changed here. I think the major issue why we had in null pointer error was because I didn't initialize my driver
Web driver.
properly. Yes,
Okay.
like I said. So I didn't initialize my web driver very well. So I now had to like bring a method before my test method. I wrote another method before tests. So that's what we call before class. That is before this user login test class run this setup. So this setup will now go back to my base class, all right, and acknowledge this, all right. So after that it will try to navigate, all right. Now navigate to URL is what I called here. Okay, I asked it to navigate to URL. However, it is more important. In fact, the URL is not supposed to be in base class too. Normally, some people can put it in base class, but as I'm thinking about it now, it's supposed to be in your config file, which is supposed to be linked to your base class. So at the end of the day, we'll still have to remove it from base class and put it in our config by the time we start the framework thing. So, but anyway, it is right now in the test. So we say navigate this URL and then locate user login object and then read the element inside user login object. Then type in this standard user inside the username field, then type in this inside the password field. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to click on the login button. If you like, you can call this the test steps. Okay, so we have so I'll go back to this and be sure that I have the right element there for my login button. So I have class name. I don't want to use class name. Let me go back. I don't know why I use class name there. So there's class name. There is so I will use ID login dash button. So we have ID login dash button. Okay, so I have ID login dash button. Then I have this one as login button. So I will come here to the method and say click on login button. Okay, click on login button, the login button dot click. So we have used dot send key, we have used dot click. Interesting. Okay, so dot click is saying just click, right? So here I will copy this method and come to my test and say this dot. So let me comment out this and yeah. So if you look at here now, I have the four test suits. The other time I had the four test suit run one. So it is TestNG that enabled us to be able to do this. We have not set up our log4j, so nothing can be logged here yet. So, but however, we are making use of our TestNG already. So we have this number of passes, number of runs, failures, skip, and so on. So I'll come here and I'll run this. Okay. Okay. So there we have been able to log in. All right. Concerning proper coding practices or proper way of developing your test framework, we will look more into it next week. So where you put your log4j, where you put your reporter, how you write your configuration properties, what should be inside your base class or your base test as you might have named it, what you have in your base, and how you write your test, right? Those are the things we'll talk about next week. So with that, we'll be able to so with the following week, after talking about all of that next week, we'll develop a whole framework next week. Then following week, we will come back to this source demo and see what tests we can perform with it. So just do one or two things and write some tests and also so that's how we'll do that before we eventually have our project. So I've modified this code now. I have the page object, alright, page object class, which is of course the normal stuff. Then in my test, I've switched it up, I've improved it. So I said before class, run the setup, and then during test, I've removed navigation. Okay, I removed navigation. Now I have this. Now you wonder where the navigation is. It's now inside my base class. So I have my base class here. See, I have my base URL as this. Then I have my driver. Initially I was having issue with driver, the NoiPanther issue. So that is also resolved now. I have instantiating my Firefox driver, navigation to the base URL. So it will first run the setup, alright. So I have my setup saying okay, run my base class and navigate to the URL. Once that is done, then you can start running this test. So we have done with what user login, right? Thank you for being in this class. See you later. Bye.